Hey there, friends. Welcome to another week right here with me in my home office. Happy to serve you. I am Denise Simpson. I am excited to be with you every single week. If you are joining me weekly or you're watching the replay, say hello. We like engagement around here. As a leadership trainer, as an executive coach, I always have audiences. I'm always speaking. This is my job. And it is important to get feedback from the audience, feedback from my client who I'm speaking to. And I treat all of you like an audience in the room with me as I am training you on something that's timely, something that is necessary for us to learn that we can implement today. And so it's nice to have that back and forth. So would love to have you share that you are here, that you're watching, or maybe an insight as we are together these next few minutes, maybe 20 minutes. I'm going to try to make sure we stay within that time frame. But for those of you who don't know me, I am Denise Simpson. I am a leadership trainer. I am a researcher. I am a public academic, and I'm an executive coach. And I love everything I do in this field of study, obsessed with it, which is why I spend so much time in this field developing leaders into masterful, skillful, strategic planning leaders. These are leaders who amplify their impact no matter the level they are in their leadership practice, whether they are aspiring or emerging or a mid-level manager or a mid-level leader, or what if they are senior level executives. No matter where they are on the pipeline of leadership, I have the privilege of supporting them on their journey. And this is what we get to do every single week because I love to teach. It is one of my top values for myself is to grow and expand. And so to be able to do this every week is, of course, a privilege, but it's a necessary thing that we must do as leaders. Because we are so busy, because there's so much pressure on us, because we have to-do lists that wrap around our buildings, it is important that we take the time to nourish our minds, to nourish our bodies, to nourish our spiritual bodies. It is important that we invest either time, focus, energy, or yes, money in enriching ourselves. And because that is a top value of mine, I am able to do this as my vocation. I've taken a discipline that I love so much, and I've taken people, leaders that I love so much, and I have created such a magnificent institute. It's called Masters of Leadership Institute, so that we can help simplify leadership for you because your job is to amplify your impact in your families, in your communities, in your organizations. That's your job. Your job is to amplify your impact. My job is to simplify leadership so that you can go do your job. What a great relationship we have around here, because this is what we get to do every single week is, again, bring you a topic, a training, some conversation so that we can wrap our minds around this very nebulous, abstract concept called leadership, and we put it into practical measures. We go put this into practice right away. That's why these weekly trainings, every single week that we interact with each other on these live trainings, every time you watch a replay, it is important that you set aside time for this work, not just to consume and receive the information like we're doing today, but then go use this information and apply it. That's how we learn, and that's how we become masterful leaders. I named the institute Masters of Leadership Institute because I wanted to develop masterful leaders out there, because mastery is the ability to execute effortlessly without the use of conscious resources. Don't you want to be a masterful leader? Doesn't that sound exciting? Where you can eliminate the overwhelm, the confusion, the frustration, the fear, the anxiety, the sleepless nights, all of those emotions that an overwhelmed brain feels in their body. An overwhelmed leader feels every day as they're entering the building, as they're trying to lead their teams. There is confusion. It feels nebulous, abstract. Sometimes you can't even, express what you're feeling. You don't even know how to get through the fog of fear, of confusion. So wouldn't you want to know more about how to be a masterful leader so that you can do this, learn the mindset, learn the skills, learn the strategies so that you can master your role of leadership? I don't know about you, but I will take clarity. I will take courage. I will take confidence over all of these negative, nebulous emotions that we leaders feel on a daily basis. But I've had to work on mastering those things for myself so that I can have clarity, confidence, and courage every day in my leadership practice. This is why Masters of Leadership Institute exists. And so, one of the programs inside Masters of Leadership Institute is called Amplify Leadership. And how timely it is for us to talk about why amplifiers make the best leaders and how to become one. So, as we were creating programs for our clients, and we only have three, by the way, there are only three. So, you plug into one of the three or more, but it's just three offerings that we have in the Institute. And so, when we were thinking and brainstorming ideas on what to name this one glorious monthly leadership development program, I had to take some time too and ask myself in private what it is this program wanted. So yes, I know what my leaders want. I know what I want. I know what I want. But what does this program want to do in this world? And as I spent time praying over it and meditating over it, and contemplating over it, and just swimming in all of those emotions, the word amplify came to my heart. Amplify. The program was saying to me, let's amplify this because we need leaders out there to stop the confusion, to stop the overwhelm, to stop all of that fear, leadership practices. Why don't we simplify this for them so that they can then amplify who they are as leaders, so that they can go impact their teams, their organizations, their institutions, their communities, their families? And so amplify kept coming up for me. Amplify, amplify leadership. And so what we talk about in the program and what we're going to talk about today is why amplifiers make the best, most impactful leaders out here. What does amplify mean in the context of leadership? Why is this important for you to be able to resonate with and then go apply immediately? This word amplify, when I think of amplify, I think of increasing. It's an increase in either volume or in an amount, right? A volume of sound, maybe, right? Just amplify what's already there. We increase what's already there. And when we think of amplify, we think of an amplifier, especially for those musicians out here. And I got a few in my life who I absolutely love and adore. Janelle, you're out there, and some others that are out here that are singers, musicians, and they use a device like an amplifier to increase the sound through a loudspeaker so that the people in the back of the arena can hear them loud and clear as if they were sitting in the front row. So the amplification of a leader, and we're going to talk about the secret behind an amplifier. We're also going to talk about some of those skills, traits, I call them skills because they can be developed, traits not so much, but a skill, some skills that are important for amplifiers. So if you're a leader out here who's saying, I want to do more, I want to be better, my team deserves more, I deserve more, I'm a great leader, I'm a great human. I'm a great human. Maybe I need to become a masterful leader, but I'm a great person. And I deserve to learn how to amplify my impact. It's important that I do that because my job's on the line, because I'm a responsible leader. And if I learn how to amplify my impact, then that's going to be a ripple effect on team performance, on employee morale, on organizational culture, on employee commitment and engagement to me and to this organization. There's so many positive impact that will happen when you apply what we're going to learn today on how to become an amplifier in your leadership practice. So Amplify Leadership is the name of our program. I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of our time together, but let's get into the meat of things, because I think it's important that we talk about this in a way that relates to you, in a way that you can go and implement right away. And so I don't know if you all recall the movie Maestro with what was his name? Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper. And Maestro was about Leonard Bernstein, or Bernstein, however you pronounce that. And I didn't know much about Leonard. All I knew was that he is a conductor, masterful musician, loved everything about musicals and composing, and was extraordinary. And so when I watched this movie, I watched it blindly. I went into it only, Bradley Cooper, called my name and said, "Look, come watch this." That's the only reason why I turned it on. And so as I was getting to know this person in real life, this Leonard Bernstein, and his love for music and the arts, and his role as a conductor. And so I was a little girl who was forced to play piano and violin. I was a little girl who was forced to be in an orchestra. I remembered lugging my little violin case on the bus. We lived in the barrio in Laredo, and the school was up north. So it was a long trip every morning and every evening to and from. And my dad built us a little bench outside of our house so that we could wait for the school bus to pick us up, like at 6:45 in the morning. And there I was with my violin case and my older sister and her violin case. And we would get on the bus together, and we would be made fun of because we were the music nerds, the geeks on the bus. And I remembered being put into an orchestra at a very young age, and I didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't developed the skills of a competent musician at that time. I was a little girl. I didn't want to play these instruments, but I was forced to do it. But I remembered hearing my sister, and she being so talented. Of course, she was 3 years older, so she had much more experience than me. And she really loved these instruments, the violin and the piano. And I felt like I was literally the second fiddle, and was, second chair, and always, forced to follow in her footsteps. So I didn't like it very much. But as I was listening to her, and as I was watching the conductor praise my sister, I just started to shrink in my seat. And I remember telling my mom, "There's no way I'm going to keep doing this. She is so good, and it's embarrassing for me, and I don't fit into this orchestra. I'm just a bad single player, and I shouldn't be here. I'm ruining the orchestra." And I remembered how challenging that was for me. So as I was watching this movie Maestro, and how he was so manic almost, and I use that in the most respectful way, but as he was conducting his orchestra, he was pulling out all of the strengths and the skills of these individual musicians, because as a conductor, his primary role is to use every single person in that orchestra and pull out their strengths so that he can interpret the score in the way he wants to interpret this, he is responsible for setting the tempo of the score and the musicians, and he uses gestures to either speed up a musician or to slow a group down. And so here is Leonard in this movie Maestro, and he is conducting these beautiful pieces. And he, of course, his life story is incredible, but the point I want to make here is that he was able to amplify the score of the sheet of music, and he was able to use every single musician in his orchestra to then have this incredible symphony, cacophony of beautiful music. And so here I was thinking, well, this is what we leaders do, don't we? We have to amplify the strengths of our individual employees. And then we have to put them in a team, in a group, and we have to work in unison together while each of us is using our own individual strengths and power. But it's the conductor, AKA the leader, who does this. We do this every day in the organization. And so this idea of amplification, especially in music, because our musician friends out here, they use amplifiers to then again uh, have sound, so somebody in the back seat or in nosebleeds is able to hear this in this amplified way in this arena, just like someone in the front row could hear it. So everybody in the room is right there with that musician. And so we leaders, this is what we have to do, is we have to amplify our impact. And we do that through conducting our teams or our orchestras. And so amplification is important. And this is why leaders who take on these skills of an amplifier leader has greater impact than the ordinary leader out here. So this is why we must become amplifiers in our teams, in our departments. And so we look at our individual employees' strengths and weaknesses. Some of them have major opportunities. Some of them, have some more development to do. But that's why these three next traits I'm going to talk about, or skills, I should say, better said skills, because they can be developed. Traits, not so much, but skills. You and I can learn them right now, today, and go apply them. So let me rephrase that. We're going to talk about 3 skills. And the first skill that is so important is pattern recognition. Listen, we great amplifier leaders out here, we can spot patterns in our employees. Listen, if you're not paying attention, then you're not going to recognize these patterns. And I know some of you are saying, but Denise, I have about 50 employees. Like, how am I supposed to get to know each one? That's your job, my friend. I don't care how many you lead. That is your job. We have to be more proactive in getting to learn and know about our employees. So the first skill is pattern recognition. So we spend a lot of time with our employees, do we not? Some of us maybe a little too much time, but in the context of the organizational setting, we know their trigger points. We know how some will get activated. We know when the amygdala, or they have emotional hijacking. We talked about that in our last 2 weeks of training here with me. We know them so well that we know how they're going to respond. They're almost predictable. Now, if we look at our own relationships in our own families, we have recognized patterns in our lovers, in our partners, in our spouses, even in our children. We know their patterns so well because we're so intuitive. We are checking in with behavior. We're always looking at, well, when they behave this way, this is how they perform. Or when I say this to them, this is how they're going to react. I mean, our children are better pattern recognizers than we are. We have children who know, oh, I won't ask mom for this one. I'm going to have to ask dad when he gets home from work, because he's going to be so tired, hard for him to think. He's going to, ask me to just give him the few details. But mom, however, oh, she's on it. And at that time of day, forget it. Our own children have stronger pattern recognition skills than we do. But this is why, as leaders, it's important that we tune in to those patterns of our individual employees. Here's why this is important, which leads me to skill number 2. This leader knows that the team or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So this leader, this amplifier leader says, "Oh yeah, I have recognized some patterns in some of you." And now I also know, this is the second skill, I also know that the team is greater than the sum of its parts, meaning that when we collectively join forces as a team, we're going to be greater performers. We're going to meet measurements even better instead of, doing this on an individual basis. So the team is what's important for me to recognize as an amplifier leader, because I know that, yes, every single one of you individual employees are so important. And I also know that as a team, we're going to perform greater. It's going to be a greater, it's going to be higher measurements in our performance levels. But here's what's important to know about this second skill is that even though we know that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, we as leaders, amplifiers in particular, we know that we have to develop our individual employees. Because we know that the team is greater than the sum of its parts, it is important that we spend time individually with these employees that need development. This is why skill number 1 was so important: pattern recognition. I mean, when you're leading a team in a big project, don't you say, well, that one over there can lead this team with or without me here, but that one over there, not so much, because I know their patterns and I know how they're going to respond, especially in stress or in chaos. But that one over there, that one is really good with numbers. And I bet if I give, part of this project for this person to lead, they'll hit their measurements sooner than later. And so you start assessing each of your individual employees because you have identified their patterns. And so, yes, the whole team is going to perform at its best together, but we also need to focus on growing and developing them individually, because we know that the team or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So that was 2. I hope you are following along, because this is what you need. These are the skills that you need to develop right away. Now, the third skill, it's more like a value that this leader has. An amplifier leader, because they have recognized voids, opportunities of development, pattern recognitions in their teammates, in their individual employees. And they also know that as a team, they're going to perform in unison, just like an orchestra, because you're the conductor, AKA leader. But because of those 2 very powerful skills that you're going to develop immediately, that third one is you valuing growth and development for yourself and your team. How could that not be one of your top values as an amplifier leader? How could that not be one of your main priorities as a leader? Is to develop, to help your employees close those gaps, to fill those voids. How could you not, if you are wanting to amplify their strengths, because you have recognized their patterns? And some have big voids, some are as big as the Grand Canyon, while others are as shallow as a puddle. But either way, they have voids, and you have recognized these patterns in them, and you want to do something about it. And as a leader, you are able to allocate funds, budgets for professional development to help your individual employees grow and expand. That's why these 3 skills are so important. Let's go through those again. Number 1, pattern recognition. You know how they're going to respond in all kinds of circumstances in the organization. You know them very well. And if you don't, we're going to talk about strategies on how you can begin to pay attention to them. And then number 2, you know that the team or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So you know that team is going to perform in unison like an orchestra, again, because you are the conductor, AKA the leader. But that doesn't stop you from identifying the needs that each of these individual employees have. And then number three is growth and development is one of your top three values. And if it's not, ask yourself why it's not. Ask yourself why that's not important as a leader. Because if you're not growing and developing yourself, surely you will not value, you won't put this in your top core values. Of course, you're not going to invest or allocate a budget for professional development. So if you don't care about it for yourself, of course you're not going to care about this for your individual employees. So right now is the time to reflect on this. So if you want to amplify your impact in your organization with your team, these are the three most important skills that we must develop immediately. Now, let's quickly talk about strategies because you're probably wondering, okay, so I have voids as a leader and now what do I need to do? And so as I mentioned, if you're not paying attention to your employees' patterns, then what is it that you can do now to start identifying some of those patterns? And maybe it's just some simple questions. When I tell Sally to do this, I have noticed she's been responding in this way. Or when I ask Maria to do that, I got some feedback from her that was negative. I wonder if that's an actual pattern that I need to pay attention to. And so as you start jotting down notes, and listen, I take notes. I take lots of notes with my employees. Every time we have a team meeting and somebody responds in a very interesting way to me, I'm always taking down some notes. Like, okay, he responded in this way. I wonder what's going on. Okay, well, maybe I shouldn't take this personally. Maybe it's something that happened with him at home. Something's going on. Okay, I won't think much about it, but if it becomes a pattern, I certainly want to identify that and perhaps address it before it becomes a negative impact on the team because you're ultimately responsible for that. And so start paying attention to their unique patterns. So that's one strategy to take on. How about fostering open communication and feedback? So, where you are able to have an open door policy for them. Like some leaders that I know are very intimidating. Some of their employees will not go to them until the end of the rope when they have no choice but to go to them. So, are you a leader who has that open style of communication? Do you promote that? Do you encourage that during team meetings, or does it does it turn into a shout out? Right, like they're battling each other in these team meetings and arguments arise and you lose total control of the team. Right? So start looking at what your communication patterns are, yours leader, and then how you can improve on that so that you can help support your team to feel comfortable, to know that they can trust that you're going to do something with their feedback. Right? It's the worst thing in the world is for an employee to feel like they are not seen or heard or understood. And I know some of you out here are going, but I'm not a therapist, I'm a leader. Listen, we take our brain and our heart everywhere we go. And so trust me, your employees are bringing their personal concerns into the workplace unknowingly, unconsciously, subconsciously. But I like to think that our employees are doing the best they can with the neurology they have. And so here they are showing up in the workplace and they want to feel seen. They want to be able to trust you as their leader. And having this open communication feedback loop is so important. So, what is your communication style right now? Is it open? Is it encouraging? Or is it constricting? Or is it, negative? Or are you curious? I always love the approach of curiosity in everything. I don't want to approach something in a negative, forceful, energetic way. I just want to open myself up and ask questions. I noticed that you answered this way when I assigned you this task and gave you a timeline, and you responded in this way. And I'm just curious. Was it something that I said or something that you heard that is not gonna work in fulfilling this project for the team? So instead of coming at this an employee or an individual um, uh, report, a direct report, you open yourself up to curiosity instead of constriction and negative and forceful. Instead, you open, and it's literally in your in your body, in your mind, you're opening yourself up to what's going on. Tell me more. And sometimes when I don't understand what they're saying, I tell them, tell me more about that. Tell me a little bit more about that. Help me better understand what's going on. That's a open communicative approach to fostering that will foster this trust and transparency with your people. That's all we want for them. And so something else that you can do, another strategy that I do is just setting clear goals with a strategic roadmap. Here's where we're going. Here are the strategic plans of the Institute, Masters of Leadership Institute. And here's what we're going to do as a team for this next year in 2025. And I've broken this down into quarters. Now, first of all, I am open to hearing your feedback on how we can help more leaders in all these industries. And then I open the floor to the team so that they can share with me their thoughts because they may know something I don't know, right? I mean, I hired them because they are experts in their individual roles. And that's why I get to amplify their individual strengths. I get to pull out all of these great assets and knowledge and skills and abilities. This is why I hired you. And so, of course, I want your feedback. Of course, I want your input. See, I am open to their feedback, to their opinions, and to their ideas. And then I'm very clear on how we're going to move forward. I take what they tell me into consideration, and then I get to either put it into the strategic plan. I can mull it over, I consider it for a few days. But if not, if I know it's not going to work, and I just thank them for that idea, I don't discourage them from giving me more, but I'm able to leave them open to sharing in the future. But I want for them to know that they are involved in this strategic roadmap. I want them to know that they are valued. I hired them after all. I know their expertise. They're experts in areas that I will never be an expert in. Just like the people on your team right now, whether you hired them or not, right? A lot of you have inherited these teams. But if you are able to see their strengths, their individual strengths, and yes, their opportunities, and of course their weaknesses, you are able to tap into their genius and amplify those wonderful assets that they bring to the organization and in your team. And so this is what the amplifier does. We're looking for all of the good parts. We're looking for all the greatness in our teammates. We want to pull that out of them, just like a conductor does in their orchestras, because they ultimately are the persons who are responsible for interpreting the score by the use of these talented, skillful musicians. And that conductor also sets the tempo. And I like to think of that as setting the culture tempo. These are the standards. This is how we're going to treat each other. These are the policies that we must follow. This is what we do. They're setting the tempo. You as a leader is doing that, just like a conductor does with their musicians. And so these are just some ideas to help you become an amplifier. Why, number one, we named our program Amplify Leadership, and number two, how you can be an amplifier leader, because the amplifiers make the best leaders, in my professional opinion. So let me quickly review those 3 skills that I mentioned. And of course, you have a list of all the strategies that you can implement right away. But again, the skill of pattern recognition. If you don't have that now, find a way to hone that immediately. Number 2, knowing that the team or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So important. Yes, and we still develop them individually, knowing that they're ultimately going to impact the entire team. We must allocate time, budget, energy to develop these individuals. This is why skill number one is so important, pattern recognition. You have to know whose voids you need to help fill, whose gaps you need to help close. Because as a team, if you do that on an individual basis, they will come together as a team and perform these symphonies beautifully because you are the conductor of this orchestra. And then the last skill is growth and development being at your top, one of your top three core values: growth or development, but developing yourself and others needs to be in that top three core values. And guess what? It is a skill because you have to find awareness around your own gaps, around your own blind spots before you can go and help an employee. And so if you're not doing that for yourself, then of course it's hard for you to want to help your direct reports. And so those are three very important skills that we must develop right away to become amplifier leaders. All right, leaders, let me share with you very quickly uh, an opportunity for you to close your gaps, to identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, AKA a SWOT analysis, which I hope you're doing right now with your teams. But if you haven't done that, let's start with you first. And so identify what your needs are. How do you want to grow? How do you want to expand? Is that even a priority for you? And if it's not, why isn't it a priority for you? And then I want for you to go visit us at drdenisesimpson.com/amplify. That's for Amplify Leadership. You're going to want to join us. We just opened the doors. We only have about a handful of people in there right now. As of right now, today, we only have a handful of folks in there. And I'm so excited to serve them, to train them. Head over to my website because you're going to want to learn all of the incredible opportunities that we are helping our leaders do. We're helping them close those gaps. We're helping them meet those leadership development needs that we leaders desperately need, and many other ways that we're serving our leaders in Amplify Leadership. So head over there right away. Join me inside so I can meet you and serve you right away. All right, leaders. Thank you so much for your time. Did not see any comments. I did see some hearts. So thank you for joining me. If you are watching the replay, we really love engagement. Listen, it is as a trainer, feedback is important in real time, in real life, as I'm teaching. And so I want to make sure that you are resonating with this information, because if you're not, then I will change my scope of training here. And but I need you to tell me if this is exactly what you're needing to hear right now. So your feedback is important, and I encourage it always. So thank you so much for your time today, and I'm looking forward to your insights, your replies, your comments, and of course, let me know how I can serve you and hopefully serve you inside Amplify Leadership. All right, take good care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.